Coast. I'm George Hudson. Joined with me is Robbie Colbreth. Guys, thanks for tuning into the podcast. If you're tuning in live, go ahead and drop a comment saying where you're tuning in from, and give us a shout out. We'll shout you out. Robbie, how you doing this morning?
Man, I feel great. I'm happy to be alive. I'm glad that I can get to see you, man. See you another day. We got Jeannie in the backdrop. Jeannie, I know you're doing well. Thank you for all that you do. We want to go ahead and get into this time matters, man, because it does. And so I just want to start off by saying this. First off, words are thought fossils, right? Words, they're just thought fossils. They're already encoded with antiquities. They're encoded with math, science, philosophy, faith, revelations. And our cyborg mainframe is coded in these fossils of time, right? So we get to experience in the moment. We get to experience things. We get what we call sometimes aha moments because we heard something at some other point in time, or what we just caught that's aha for us. It was just meeting us at the moment. Whether we caught it directly from somebody or not, it unveiled itself, right? And it started to reflect in our being something that means something that's causing a transition, a transformation, a change moment for our lives. And these things need to be paid attention to. I'm gonna go somewhere and I'm gonna come back to this piece right here. But back in 1977, NASA launched a spaceship into outer space. Its purpose was to look at our galaxy, everything about us, but also to be able to get to a spot where something, believing that there's other beings out there in space, give them something about who we are in our solar system, about what we're all about. And so what they did, they put a phonograph inside of this spaceship, and it's a gold-plated phonograph, and it's digitized in binary code, right? And it talks about the who, the what, the where, and the type of being and species and civilization that we actually are. And in doing that, they were given whoever they believed that would come across this the opportunity at looking at who we are and have a type of discovery. So funny that recently China had what was like a China Roswell experience where they uncovered this space disc, and this space disc similar to ours, but it wasn't gold. It was some kind of cobalt type of thing with another element that's not on our elementary chart. And it when you play it like a phonograph, which is what we did, then it communicates an energy. And out of that energy flow, there's a codex, and that codex is deciphered in binary code, numbers, science, math, all kind of stuff in it. And what people are doing right now, they're looking at what is mathematical, scientific meaning means, and where did it come from, right? So fossils, binary code, right, that communicates uniquenesses and other things like that about space, about time, about the moments that we share and we accept, about things that we want people to understand or know about us. So this, even in this universal binary language, it's relative to us, and it's going to be relative for all time. Apparently, this is a space language, right? Especially, or a time language, right? But it's something that we deal with. So I started to think about this a while back before I came up with this discovery here recently, and I started to realize out of two passages, you guys know my background a little bit, but out of these two passages, I started to realize that time actually does matter. And so in one of my favorite passages, it says there's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to uproot, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace, and a time to reframe the embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent, right, and a time to make peace, or a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. What do workers gain from their toil? I've seen the burden of God has laid on human race, and he has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart. And my other favorite about time is when the fullness of time had come, right? It says, when the fullness of time had come, God sent his son, born of a woman, born under the law. So in this context right here, the law, it means a lot of different things, but this context where we're speaking from is the law of time, because inside of that law of time, we get a revelation and a realization about whatever it is we want to think, feel, or express. So what do? So what we do or what we don't do in this lifetime, we're always rewarded in this vacuum of time, good or bad, towards the law of light or toward the law of dark things, dark matter. Time is going to pay you according to what you do with it. There's no escape. Even when you die, the record of how you played in the law of time is recorded in eternity. You know, so you play it. You play in this game in this space of time. You play to win. You play to unfold. So what are we going to do with the time that we have? We're going to take the time for phototrophism, right? That's a little scientific word. It's like orientation, or it's the orientation of an organism toward light. So it's either going to go toward the light source, that's positive phototrophism, or it's going to go away, negative phototrophism. It's a choice. And that's the same kind of choice that we have in time. Choice, this is acceptance, right? Choice of acceptance, allowance, movement in the moment, which produces a power. I call it camp. We determine where we're going to camp. C for choice. A for acceptance and allowance. The M is for movement in the moment. And the 4, it produces a power. And that power sort of makes us titans of the time if we choose to be titans of time, where we camp in our moment, where we determine whether we're going to be happy in our moment or whether we're going to be sad, whether we're going to build in our moment or we're going to tear down. We have to become titans of our time. We have to be able to express ourselves and our struggles and grab hold to certain things that are causing our struggle and know that it's time possibly that we need to let some things go. And then we have to look at that same moment and realize it is time for us to be entrepreneurs of our moments, entrepreneurs of our strategy for transformation of our lives. So we can dissolve false impressions that we foster and we carry about ourselves or others carry about us. And we can begin to build new expression about who we are, where we're going. And it doesn't matter about the past at this time of transition. It doesn't matter about the past in this season of this revival and revelation. We got to do something with our time. Jump on in there, George.
I love this episode because one of the great things is that, first off, one of my favorite movies is Inception, and time plays a key role in that movie.
Right on.
How we perceive time, how we understand it to be, how we can make the most of time, how we can really, wish it away and not take care of that. It's really cool to see just how everyone perceives time a little bit differently. And one quote that I really like, I'm not sure where I heard it, but if time doesn't matter, then nothing really does, because
right on.
It's at the time, at the moment, that makes things like important. We ascribe meaning to things based on the urgency we put upon it. So, and then time is what encapsulates that all together. Like when LeBron makes a buzzer beater, or MJ's famous, shot at the free throw line, it's all predicated on time and happening at a specific moment. And like, I can't believe he did it under pressure and
right.
All these other things. I mean, he could do that shot in his sleep, but the fact that he did it with 0.2 seconds left from 30 feet away at the angle, leaning away, all at the predicated time it's what makes things cool. And when we apply that to like real life is, imagine if I told you were going to have $86,400 in your bank account at, 1 a.m. And then when you wake up, you have to find out a way to spend that. And then when you go to sleep, it automatically hits 0. And that every day you are gifted another $86,400. Well, that's how many seconds are in a day. You would find a way to spend all that money because you would lose it at the end of the day. So it's kind of like a framing of how we should treat our time is we have to have some importance. We have to have some relevance. We have to have, yes, there's times to slow down. There's times to rest, but we have to be, I think, more than anything, intentional with how we spend our time. It's very easy. We were talking a little bit, we all do it, just to kind of put on Netflix and watch the clock spin around, and it's not that sometimes that's okay. It's just getting lost in that and not and doing that when you have other things you want to do, that you've made a priority, that you've communicated that with other people. It's more about, is it distracting me from what I say I really want?
Yeah.
So I love this episode. I think, when you look at a day, how you treat time is how you treat a lot of things. If I ask you, how much money do you make? Or if you're trying to learn something, I'm like, okay, well, where do you spend your time? How much time are you dedicating to learning that skill, developing another business, stepping into real estate, doing a podcast, starting a YouTube channel, all these other things? And time is like the factor that dictates how well you are at something, how well you do something.
Like they say, time is money, right?
Time is money. Absolutely.
And also time is of the essence. All right. So that means we don't want to waste any time. So use of time and context of what you're sharing right now will make you or it'll break you. Some of the richest people on the planet, they've learned how to live in and harness the moments of time. And with that, they invoke their ingenuity, their innovation, they fuse their imagination and their curiosity, and they start to work in the moment. And I tend to believe that when we accept the moment is so powerful. And I think this is where we miss a lot of this. The moment comes at inopportune times, but when we accept the moment, inside the moment, there's a treasure trove. Inside the moment, it's like Pandora's box. I was sharing this last week. It's like Pandora's box. But when this box opens up, it gives you everything you need for your ingenuity, for your innovation, for your imagination, for your curiosity, for your plan, in order to help you get to the places that you need to get to. The problem is sometimes we sacrifice our moment because we're resting, right? We're sleeping, or it came at an inopportune time. We were doing something else and we probably needed to take that note, right? Because that was the moment and its job is to serve us. Sometimes we're living in a frustration because we receive a moment in time. I call it an eternal interruption in time. And that eternal interruption in time, which is the measure and expanse of who we are, how we measure, how we see who we are, what we've achieved or what we're going to achieve. If we don't accept the moment and move inside of the moment, we won't receive the tools and the treasures that are necessary in time to bring us to this explosive transformation that has to occur. Here's a munchable for you. The time arrives when something is finished. He set time and eternity in the hearts of men. This is what the scripture says. So once we get it, the end to some cycle has come. We don't want to continue to just live in routine when that has come. We want to begin to create. We want to begin to move in a different type of perspective. Here's a munchable perspective. When I'm moving in this lower vibration, I'm living in this repetitive and this boring existence. I bump constantly into time. I get tied up in mental permission codes, waiting for someone to push my on-off button and say, yeah, you have the right to, or yeah, you're good at this, or yeah, you're great at that, or yeah, go ahead and do that. So I start to squander the resource of time. But the moment was for me. And so if I can get out of my lower vibration of doubt and shame and judgmentalism and externalism and self-hate and laziness and fear and waiting and lying and scarcity and poverty and loss and depression and comparisons and inactivity and indecisions, then I can take the eternal moment that I'm granted. I can appreciate it when it comes. And then I can say to myself in a higher vibration, let there be light in my moment. And I can begin to code what that looks like. and it'll begin to feed me. It'll begin to energize me. It'll begin to take me into a space that might be uncomfortable initially, that I've probably never gone into at all, but it's going to move me out of my past. And so then I can surrender my past, its stronghold, and all those other considerations, and I can move in time. George,
I love the end of that. Surrendering your past. Like, it's really important if you want to achieve something, that you don't have. If you want to, step into a new space, like a new business, learn a new skill. Like, time is really the indicator that you'll utilize to communicate to other people that it's important to you. Like, if I want to spend an extra hour a day learning how to start a YouTube channel so I can create a passive source of income. And normally after work, I just go and hang out with my bros or whoever and play video games or something like that. I have to communicate like, no, I have commitments after work, we can hang later, but now I have to go and do what I said I was going to do. And that's a way of communicating to yourself that, hey, this is important. I'm going to go out and do this. It's communicating to your friend, like, no, you can just do it later. They might say, well, no, I can't because this is important to me. That'll communicate to them that it's important to you, and they're going to respect that. If they're really your friend, you're not ditching them. They're just not coming with you. I had a guy that, was really a big mentor of mine. I was trying to start an Amway business, and ultimately he was just really good at motivating people based on what they said was important. And, if your friends feel like you're leaving them, and it's not you leaving them, it's they're not coming with you. Right. Yeah. So there are things that are important to you that aren't important to them. And if they don't respect that, then they'll lose that part of you. It's not like, you're cursing them or they're cursing you. It's just like, we have different interests and our paths are starting to separate. So, but like, it's not that we're no longer friends. It's just, I need to dedicate this time somewhere else that I've deemed important.
Yeah.
Because you've tied that together to the root of what you desire in life. If that's, freedom of time, freedom of money, then I'm going to spend time doing things that are going to allow me to do that. So then I can put that back into future family, future children. And then maybe I can go back to my friends and say, look what I've done. Now I have all this spare time. And then maybe they'll want to come with you.
Yeah. Or maybe it's time out for them in that space altogether, other than just being a friend.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so it's all about in that moment. Once you have the goal and vision, you have to act on it. Because not only is it going to communicate to you that it's important, it's going to communicate to your friends and family, but it's also like, scripturally, there are texts that say you do not have because you do not ask. And I think part of the way we ask for things is by our actions. Like, yeah, it'd be nice if we, lived on, this and this, or I had a little bit better financial situation. I could help my family out. Like, the thought, it doesn't stop at the thought. If you truly want it, you have to put and do the things that are going to give you those results. So part of it does communicate to God that, like, hey, I'm really asking for this. I want to do whatever it takes to get this. And then can you help me? Can you give me this, basically?
So when I look at that, what that speaks to me, because I think it's pretty profound in a few ways. One of the things it says to me is, I'm living my time. I'm going to live my time. And so by living my time, what that means to me is it's more than a hobby, right? What I'm doing is more than a hobby. When you have a hobby, you put a little bit of time and you put a little bit of effort to it. But when it's something that's extremely meaningful and purposeful for your life and for the life of other people, it's going to impact your orbit, then you're going to put more time to it. And when I used to play football and when I trained people for sports and when I coach, I always told them, put your work in. You put your work in. That's like, put your time in, pay the man so you can get paid, right? And so when you put in that work, then it's not a hobby. It's not mommy and dad wants me to play this sport. Is I really want to play this sport because I want to get something out of it. And so when you give people that choice and they choose to move out a hobby and they start to make it something that they want to manifest, it's funny how you see the effort level change. Soon as it comes out of hobby, this is what mommy and daddy wants me to do, to this is what I want to do. Then the effort man changes instantaneously. It's something that is attached to your effort man when you can recognize that right now I'm not wasting any more time. I'm not living my life as a hobby or as a zombie. We'll touch that a little bit later in a few minutes. I'm living my life on purpose. I'm living my life in purpose. I'm living my life on time. And I'm going to allow for the resources of the moment to continue to fuel me and to continue to grow me. Because time may seem to some like a prison, and to others, it's a prism of light. And to others, it's a playground of possibilities and a factory for completion of so many inventions and technologies and explorations and challenges and just victories and excitement because they see this thing as lessons that they can lean forward to and learn from. They value the output of experimentation. They value the output of finding root cause and exploration for growth. They're not afraid of taking those challenges because everybody else is settled into the mainframe, the fossilized rhythmic movement, robotic movement of just living, breathing, pulling in oxygen, expelling all the negativities and the methane and everything else that goes out. No, they want more than that. You know, so they love to complete unfinished projects that had seeming impossibility connected to it. They enjoy the change. In fact, George, what I picked up on specifically about friends cycle through in seasons. Relationships are built on seasons. And I was talking to somebody yesterday and they were like, wow, I'm so glad I'm talking to you. You came at the right time. I was just praying about this. I said, no, you accepted the moment. And when you accept the moment in your personal prayer life, then everything that you needed was released in that time. And its purpose is to serve you based on all these things that you just finished sharing. So therefore, I was a part of this plan at this time for your life because you became an entrepreneur over your future. You were no longer going to be slave to your past and how you did it in the past. In fact, what you just told me is your past got you out of your condition. And when you went back to practice what got you out, it didn't serve you in taking you forward. So you've got to know when your season ends in that time and what each one of those seasons represents. It means some of them are just to get you up and get you out. Others are to get you the innovation and everything that's creative to move you forward. And then others is you need a new relationship with different people that bring you higher than where you've ever been before in your life. But you've got to figure that out. You know, you got to figure out the address for how you're going to play this game in moments and times right now. What is that address? And then if that address is an exchange of greatness and potential for income, so be it. If that address is an exchange for greatness and potential to impact the world, to impact your orbit, so be it. Whatever it is, so be it. But you've got to embrace the moment. Here's my munchable, George. I need you to jump in. This is show me how munchable. Obey the moment, no matter what time it arrives. Wake up, get up, write it down. Obey the moment, no matter what time it arrives. Wake up, get up, write it down. It's not here to come at the time you want it. It's coming at the time you best need it, and it's best to serve you. George, jump in.
There's a lot of takeaways there, and kind of what I was focusing on with what you were saying. The last part is write it down, own the moment. Like I have certain goals that I write down every day, and those are I'll repeat them to myself. Like make it seem like a reality. Mentally prepare for that moment to when it does actually happen. Act as if it's now. Become the person that would achieve those results. And what I really like doing is when I'm working out or when I'm at work and, I start to get tired and I start to, get distracted or I want to put my focus and energy elsewhere, I'll pull those things out and speak them back to myself. Like say, if I'm going to have these things in these moments where it hurts, I have to be committed to my goals, because if I'm only committed to my goals in the moments where it doesn't hurt, then I'll never achieve those things. Because the people that achieve those things, they do it all the time, regardless of how they feel. Your dreams don't only happen when you feel good. They don't happen at all usually if you only do them when you feel good. Because, I've talked to you a little bit about the friends I had in college that started the t-shirt. Like he was doing that while he was playing football, while he was going to school. I hear so many people say, well, I'm already working full time. I'm like, all right, so am I. And it's just, some people just don't get it. They don't understand that there's another, lever to pull down, another gear in life. And it's just, if they're okay with where they're at, that's fine. But I'm here to pull that lever down, to hit that higher gear, and to help other people do that. And the best way to do it is to take care of time. So one of the things that really helps with that is having those goals, having those characteristics that you want to be written down. And when you're struggling and in that moment of, yeah, I could easily just cruise out of this workout and, be done. And it's part of like the One More method that, that I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name.
I got his book sitting right over here. Mylett.
Yeah, Ed Mylett. One of his strategies is, because he described the story of his daughter going in to get a job at this restaurant, and they went through the interview process. She killed it. And then at the very end, they asked her, hey, are you 18 yet? And because, they served alcohol in the restaurant. And she was like, no. And then for that reason, they couldn't hire her. Mm-hmm. So she was walking out all upset, was going to call her dad. But then she saw this coffee shop right next door, or the cafe or something next door. And she went in there, no interview, just wanted to go in, see what it was, meet the people. She met the owner or the manager. And then she actually got offered the job right on the spot. Nice. But it's like, while we're down and out, or seemingly, we never really are, but it feels like it. What are we are we mentally doom and gloom, or we're like, yeah, this sucks, but no, I'm going to push through. I'm going to finish this set. I'm going to think about the things I want in life. And that's the reason that I keep going.
Man, that's some good stuff inside there. One of my friends is watching right now. Curtis, what's up, baby? Give me some of them heart things and give me some of them thumb things. Throw them up right now. So Curtis, I had a martial arts school years ago, right? And that's where I met him. And so I was teaching martial arts. We were cutting edge on a lot of things we were doing. We were the first ones to start after school care program, for kids to work with at-risk youth. We went to the government and we cut a contract with the government. Give me your at-risk youth that are in a system, and we promise we'll bring them through our system of training, and we'll repurpose them back into society as contributing citizens. We went and took homeless folks and we put them through a life skills training course, and we use Scope and we use SCORE. And between the two, Scope teaches you how to be an entrepreneur. SCORE teaches you how to manage, or how to interview, and how to go into job transitions and things of that nature, and life skills. So we put it all together so we can impact people's lives. And we watch people leave out of those conditions. We had a 78% success rate, which was very high considering it was only a year old when we started. When we finished, our success rate continued to climb, and people were coming back with all kinds of stories of change and transformation. We had to embrace the moment. But the reason why I mentioned Curtis came in, and he was one of my students. It ended up being one of my most improved students. I actually told him that, because when he came in, he was clunky, he was real stiff, and his movements were really robotic, really stiff. And so we kept working with his punches, working with his slip techniques, his movements, all those types of things. And he kept working on it, Matter of fact, to this date, he's still working on these things. He still goes to the gym. He puts in that incredible effort so that he can perfect that part of his movement. But he attached that part of his movement also to his successes in life. And he's had some tremendous successes in life, because he realized that in order to get to where I want to be, which is going to what you were sharing a minute ago, is embrace the moment. We've got to learn how to embrace the moments of time that come our way. This is Savage Will, because Savage Will is all about embracing the moment. This is Savage Will, because Savage Will is all about getting unhinged, getting unlocked, getting unleashed. This is Savage Will, because you've got to shift and you've got to embrace your moment. You've got to accept the moment of the calling, because it's going to reveal some things to you at that time about yourself that heretofore you probably didn't know even existed in yourself. And I'm here to tell you and encourage you that everything you thought was negative is wrong. All that was a mind trap. You've got to get out of that, because all the greatness, everything, listen, somebody else hit you with a fossil codex that said you're not this and you're not that. You can't do this, you can't do that. You're negative this, you're negative that. Somebody else hit you with that stuff. You believed it because of that time you were in. But when you get the moment, when you surrender to the moment and you partner with the moment and you become strategically aligned with the moment, that moment is going to start showing you things that's going to go counter to everything you've believed about yourself. You're going to be able to throw off all constraints that have been engraved over time about your life. You're going to be able to trust the glimpse, and it'll remain to serve you. It'll remain to build you up. I believe that moments are strategic freedom exit strategies, for our release from negative pull, negative pain, and for our inappropriate regard for time. The moment is an evolutionary gift, a supernatural highway of eternity. It's an eternal moment that's intersecting in our finite moment called time. But when the fullness of time had come, that's what the scripture says. And so it allows us to explore, express, experience, and have this intersection at this moment so that we can get the great reveal. And listen, when you get it, it doesn't always, everything doesn't happen literally overnight. Things take time to manifest. George, rock it.
I think it just, like, even just doing the podcast today, I'm thinking of these things that I'm like, hey, I've been sleeping on these goals. I've been sleeping on reaching out to this person. I've been sleeping on this too long. Like, and yet here I am. I already had plans to go to the beach later. It's like sometimes we do that, and we put our goals and dreams on like the back burner, and we're like, I'll figure it out later. When really what we're communicating is it's not that important, And I've seen this video circulate on Instagram quite a bit. It's this guy. He's like, okay, so if you're supposed to be at work at 8, right? You're going to do whatever you have to do to get up and get to work by 8, right? But when you tell yourself you're going to start a business, you're going to start a side hustle, you're going to start a YouTube channel, a podcast, and you say you're going to start it on Saturday, and you don't do that, like, there's a level of self-disrespect there that you don't do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
And you have to get to the root of that. You have to question it and say, why don't I respect my own time, but I'm willing to go and bust it for somebody else?
Yep.
Right. And ultimately in life, autonomy, I think, is what we're all striving to be and do, whether it's with work or with, fill it in, whatever you want to do. And we need people to help us get there, but we want to be as autonomous as possible and learn and develop and grow. Like, if I can do the skill of 3 people, that's more ideal, right?
Yeah.
So it's about respecting your time and respecting why you do what you do. And if you say you're going to do something, it's doing it. It's having that integrity to that your thoughts, your words, and your actions all align. And if you say it's important to you, then you'll do it. And there's always a disconnect. Like, people will say they want it. Learning a new language is probably the most popular one. Like, people, I wish I could speak Spanish. Well, no, you really don't, because if you did, you'd be around Spanish speaking people. Download, Rosetta Stone or Babbel, or, they have so many apps that help people do it. I've been there. I've done that. I've downloaded Babbel, paid a month, and then stopped. But like, ultimately, it just wasn't important to me, because ultimately I don't need it. I don't have to have it to function in everyday life. And like, as you know, maybe down the road when I have some more flexible time, and if that ever needs to be a skill I have to learn, then yeah. But I was sleeping on other priorities just because I thought it would be cool to speak Spanish, right? When I couldn't connect that to a vision of who I wanted to be and getting me to a place like further down in life. So that's just an example, but there's some level of self-disrespect if we say we're going to do something and don't do it. And then you have to think about all the other people that are involved in your life that suffer because you don't follow through on your action. You know, whether it's as simple as, hey, I'm going to be there at 10 a.m., I'll pick you up, and, you know, then we'll go have a day together, right? This is like a very foundational thing in relationships, you know, showing up on time, showing the other person that you value their time.
That's right.
Ultimately, the person that's always late doesn't value their own time.
That's right.
So that reflects to other people as like, hey, I disrespect your time also. But and that's mainly what people see. They don't look into that further step of, well, if individual A is always late, not only do they not respect my time, but that's a reflection of them not respecting their own time.
100%.
But most people don't really see beyond that level. They're concerned with their day and their schedule. So it's always best to err on the safe side of, I show up early. You know, sometimes things come up, but I'm very crystal clear about my communication. I don't let people down unless I like, you know, I have a flat tire, or there's a wreck, literally, like, you know, something is obstructing the schedule other than your own like actions. So it's all about respecting your own time, but then respecting also the people around you, because you're always going to respect yourself, or whatever, however you view yourself is going to take precedence over how you view other people, because how you view other people is a reflection of how you view yourself, and that comes first. Like, if you want to serve other people, you have to serve yourself. You have to be healthy. You have to do the things that, you know, aren't convenient to take care of yourself, like,
right,
you know, digging into your shadow or your dark, like your negative habits, like all these other things, to then like let the light shine through. You know, we have to rid ourselves of the obstacles to, you know, that we're putting in our path to move forward. So it's all about self-care, and then doing it in the right way then will allow you to serve and help other people ultimately.
Dude, that's really meaty. I remember when I used to train like 5.5 hours a day with the martial arts, right? I always saw somebody bigger, better, stronger, faster, more, you know, just sharper than me. And so I put that image in my head, right? And so I would train, and I really worked to perfect certain technique. And so I started teaching myself something, and said, when this moment of weakness comes, and I feel like quitting, and I feel like giving up because the muscles are sore, right? Then I would punish the thought of that weakness. I would punish the thought of that challenge or that concern. And so I would tell it, I said, if you don't go away, this is how I talk to my mind. If you don't go away, I'm going to train for another hour, right? If you don't go away and leave me alone, I'm going to do this many more push-ups, this many more pull-ups, whatever else. I have to punish. So this is where I was in my life at that time. I would tell myself I'm going to punish that. So when I would fast, there were times and seasons annually that I would go into a fast for so many days. And if you know, when you first start fasting, after about that, really after the first 12 hours, your body, your mind starts talking to you like it's separate from you. And then when you're into a day or 2 days or 3 days, now everything else is really talking to you. And so in the same mindset, I would punish that thought. And I said, if you do not leave, I am not going to eat for 2 weeks. I'm not going to eat for 21 days if you do not leave. And this is how to talk to myself. So sometimes you do have to confront yourself, because we are taught to not only to disrespect ourselves, disrespect our time, disrespect consequently the value of other people's time and what they are. It hurts us, it hinders us, and it keeps us from our best self. But when we can fight and get rid of those things, we go into our best version, our best self. So then I'm going to just share this right here, and I'm going to pass this back over to you. But when the fullness of time had come, right? The scripture says that God sent his forth his son, born of a woman, born under law. So I just want to touch that because it explains this manifestation of time and eternity striking at one moment. The moment starts with this girl receiving a message of hope 9 months prior. She agrees to be a maidservant to nurture this cataclysmic event of time and eternity. She becomes the entrepreneur, the transacting for all mankind, when she decides to carry and to be carried by this moment that was being seeded into her body. She's the entrepreneur. She's that one that seemingly is less important to the moment, which strategically will cause for her to escape the matrix of being locked into time, locked into conversations about herself because she has this baby that's not from her husband. She's getting unleashed and unlocked from this moment. And so as a consequence, she becomes the progenitor of an entrepreneur of hope, of faith, and how it manifests over time. She re-engineered her entire young life from a moment of accepting the strategic transaction with eternity, the moment. The rest is literal history. So I've come to perceive and understand a perspective about the law of time. Its ultimate goal is to serve, to save, and to strategically release us, and also release to us resources that are necessary for us to have a cataclysmic change with a corresponding reward when we use our courage, a courage enough to live and to face the shadows of our past and to face the shadows of our future, because it's not always clear. We have to just trust what this moment is sending us. So the rewards are based on our heart of commitment, and it's captured in that moment. And the key is, what are you going to do when you see freedom look at you like this? What are you going to do? In time, we begin to make claims on our inheritance, those that are given, those that are earned, those that are imagined, those that are manufactured. But when we get that moment, this is a gift to release. It appears even in the code 1111, in the code. And when you do the study around the numbers 1111, that's cataclysmic. Every time you see 1111, some say the angels are trying to speak to you and reward you. Some say different other things. It's supposed to be a mark of change and transformation for good in many aspects, and sometimes means that you're going to go through a tough moment. But this vibration, this release, this initiates a stronghold of releasing time into a moment so that you can have airship, so you can become entrepreneur to your own freedom, so you can empower your own faith, so you can empower your own love, so that you can be committed to serve mankind through your uniqueness and your orbit, friends, family, anyone that's in your orbit that you impact from work or otherwise, they get the benefit of watching you inside of your cause change and transform and disrupt what you used to be while you manifest into something greater. And then they can see it and they can learn how to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the other things I wanted to hit on was also in Ed Milet's book. He talks about how he can, utilize a day to get more out of it, like literally by breaking down the time of the day and looking at it, like looking at one day as like 3 little days. And then so kind of reframing your view of what a day looks like. So he'll break down, obviously, after you sleep, say, most people don't sleep 8 hours, but let's just say, you get 8 hours. So that would leave 16 hours left in the day. Say you work 8 hours. So that's 16 used, and then you have 8 left. And then of those 8, like you can break that down. Like, so you'll have maybe 2 of those hours before work. You get that hour at lunch, and then that would leave 5 hours left in the day to be like, all right, I have 5 hours. How do I make the most of this little day? And it's crazy, but like when you break down, like most people will easily waste that 5 hours, through like an hour, 2.5 hours of a movie, flipping around on the phone, talking on the phone. Like and all that is nice. Like, we need some de-stressing, some unplugging, but it's like, again, back to, if I say I'm where I want to be in life and I'm not there, what actions am I going to put forth in this moment to get me there? Right? And map it out. Like, what do I need to do today and right now to get me to where I say I want to be? And what does my tomorrow look like? What does next week look like? Because if you don't think about it, we can just so easily waste those days away. And then we'll be exactly where we were, a year down the road, where we are a year, like right now. The quote, if you don't know where you want to be in 5 years, you're already there, right? Because it's all about having that intention and bringing that intention into the moment and saying, okay, this is where I want to be. How do I need to, what do I need to do right now in this moment to get me where I want to go? And then I love Jordan Peterson is, what am I doing now that's incredibly stupid and goes absolutely against everything I say I want? And how do I eliminate that from my life? If you have that moment where you have that alone time we talked about, and you really can map out what your day can look like and take ownership of that. And then it's crazy how quickly, once you make one day intentive, maybe that's not a word, but the more you get intentional about one day and then stringing those days together, it's not a shocker, but it almost is a shocker as to how quick things start to progress and manifest and then develop. And it's really cool because you're like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't need a person coaching you and telling you that. You just need the action. A couple weekends ago, I was talking to my granddaughter, right? She shared something that her father taught her, which was really cool. She's barely 16 years of age, right? She's taking college courses already. She owns her own business, and she's owned her own business for a time, right? She saves and she invests her money. These are things that her dad taught her. In fact, her dad set her up real good, put an X amount of dollars into a bank account for her, and told her, listen, if you want to understand how people make money and learn how to invest, I want you to take this X amount of dollars, and I want you, he's got her on the trading block. And he says, whatever you think's going to work, go ahead and invest in it. Whether you win it all, when you win or you lose, it doesn't matter. I just want you to invest in it. Because I want you to get used to looking at how stocks move, how things ebb and flow. So you have a confidence in managing your money and investing your money. So she started doing that. And she creatively started to move in and start having other doors just open up because her mind was set free, into the possibilities and into freedoms of being able to do things that most people don't even hear about. Most people don't even learn from their parents. Right. And he said something to her that was masterful. And he said to her, she said, my dad said people sleep too much. Entrepreneurs and winners sleep less. They are doers. They make the money because time matters to them. I have a good friend of mine. His name is Curtis. I talked to Curtis. And I was sharing with him about time. And he gave me a great analogy, right? He related time to the sports of football and baseball. And he talked to me and he says, how football is measured in more finite time, quarters. And at the end of the quarter, you have the score and you're locked and you're bound in that time. And we both know that it's a game of inches and in quarter blocks of time, whereas baseball is based on 9 innings, like 9 lives. Each inning plays out as long as is needed until it feels the requirement to close the inning. The will and the wisdom that he shared in that, I said, man, that's hot, right? That is some hot stuff. And that's an analogy to me of how the moment serves us in time. Whether we're going to look at it in a tight bucket of football analogy, or where we have a little bit more time to complete the moment in a transaction like baseball. In both ways, you still win. But sometimes you're in an experience or in a season, it's like an inning. And other times you're in an experience and it's like a quarter. And you've got to make the time to sit down and think and determine. And that means you're going to have some sleepless days or nights. You're going to have to turn the TV off. You're going to put the other person's book down. You're going to take other things out your life because this part right here is about you. It's about your experience. And the thing that makes these other people who are writing that we quote awesome is because their genius said, stop, drop, write, schedule, eliminate, confront, get this stuff out, bring this other stuff in, and make it a habit. And this is why we can now read about them. I'm going to release a book at the end of this year, right? And I have some things in it I've been compiling for years. I'm going to get that book out because I've been intending to do it for years. I've got 5 books that I have to get out because this is what I'm purposed to do in part. Today, I want to say this part right here, and I want to give it back to you, George. Today, youth are like time benders. Young people are like time benders because I see more and more young people, youth, they're abandoning this traditional work exchange model, right? The laws of 9 to 5 and working 30 to 40 years to retire. So then you can play when you're actually running out of time. And they see their parents dying, their grandparents dying off. No, they're not doing that. They're changing their model. They're creating their own businesses. And their businesses are like fun. They're doing something they enjoy doing, right? And so it's a structureless structure, making more moments available to them. They're able to work anywhere there's internet, right? And so they're able to create and they're able to go experience vacations or living like they're on a vacation. They do the creative work. They put the creative work in. They're bringing their parents along too while they're vacationing. They put that creative work in. They put that creative time in, and they're able to enjoy as a new breed nation, enjoy certain moments that their parents put off or barely have enough money to pay for, and rarely have enough time to take vacations and enjoy the family in. So they've broken the model, and I encourage that. We're not too old to break the model. We need to break the model by creating more personal moments, more personal time, more personal exploration. We got to get to the leader that's within because it's crying to get out. It wants out. It wants to. George, we were talking a while ago, a couple months ago when I first met you. You said, I want to write a book. Write the book, right? There was some things that you shared when we were talking. I said, this dude right here, this is why I want this dude with me with this podcast. It was some of the things you were sharing. I said, if he gets unlocked, if he gets unhinged, if he gets unleashed, the brilliance that's going to come out of him is going to be crazy. And the world's going to be be able to benefit from it. So the rationale behind it is because I saw the greatness. And I'm like, once he sees the full-on greatness that's on the inside of him, watch our world. There are books coming. Watch our world. There are other great impacts coming. Curtis, same thing. Some of these other people, there's people right here timed in on our Facebook in different countries right now. And we're coming to their country in order to help unpack, unleash, and to teach into so that there can be an impact made in their time. George, take it.
I think one of the great things that we're trying to do with the podcast is we're not trying to tell people that, we've got it figured out. We're saying like, this is our tribe. Let's ride and run together. Let's encourage each other to do these things. Paul talks about it in his pursuit of Christ of like, I don't speak as if I've achieved this Christ likeness 100%. It's more of like a follow me as I follow Christ. Follow us as we might follow you. We might run together. We might, but let's just go get it.
Let's go get it.
And I think the cool thing is like everyone can do it. It's all about intention, utilizing the moment and getting organized, even when you're tired, even when, you're busy, even when, your brain is in, all kind of funk and you don't even know what you're doing sometimes.
Right.
At work, I found some times where like I'll just get in a brain fog. I'm like in machine mode and I just keep doing the same task and I'll put like some wrong notes in the wrong profile or whatever. And I'm like, all right, well, so like even in those moments, like our goals don't change. Who we are once we figure out our why, and that becomes bigger than the opposition. And you have to utilize the moment to communicate that to yourself, to build confidence. It's similar to the idea that, you always hear, I think it was this major or army general or somebody in this famous speech saying, like, if you wake up and just make your bed, like you build the momentum, you've knocked the first task out, and really you're getting that reward feedback, like we were talking about, biohacking your feedback system of like you have the dopamine of like achieving a task, you did the work. And it's very similar to the idea of like when you do it in the moment, you're communicating to yourself on a mental, physiological, all kinds of levels that like, hey, this is what we're going to do and I'm going to make it happen. And, it's like with primates, when like the lead or even in like a wolf pack, when the head wolf passes away, immediately the next one that steps in line, his hormones change. Like he starts to produce more testosterone. He starts to like his actions change. You become a new creation. I think that's part of what that means is like you adopt a new mindset, a new mentality. Like you are no longer the person that is sleeping on your dreams and your goals and your hopes. Like you're the guy or girl that's going to go out and achieve it. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be easy, but it is sure worth the while, like to go out and just attack the things that are important to you, because I think that's why we're here, is to better the world in the ways that we can all, benefit from, but also like in the way that we're all uniquely gifted.
Yeah.
And I think it's just when people are on their deathbed, like the regret when that kicks in is not pursuing our own thing. It's like just doing what everyone else
does,
what, your boss was telling you to do, like, which is great. Like that dude is living his dream. If he's the CEO of a company and leading that, like that's his dream. That's great. Like I want to encourage that, but that doesn't mean I have to be a part of it, because ultimately 100%. I want to be in his position with whatever job or dream or goal or vision like I want.
100%.
So, and that's not like a selfish thing. That's just like an abundance thing. Like there's enough for everyone to go out and get it. And everyone can benefit. And it's not just for certain people,
It's for everybody.
It's for the people that want it, that they're going to go out and take the action for.
And that's the key part right there. We do have time to shed every limitation that we face. I call it low frequency. And what that low frequency can look like is complaining, commiserating, talking about people and issues, stuff that confine us to live and feel and vibe a certain kind of way. But I like the biohacking, that word right there. We biohack that madness right there. And we giving it an exit strategy. We're letting them know that you have served us well up to this time. Now I'm firing you. I no longer need you in my mind. I no longer need you to push me a certain kind of way. You serve your time and your purpose, and you get rid of it. And so we then start to drink in the oxygen, the sunlight, the things that are necessary for living. We drink in the moment that'll cause for that biological response and stimulation to make our life worth living, our life worth doing. We start to realize time does matter. What you do with your time does matter, because sometimes I think, like the analogy you were giving, that CEO and his job and him providing opportunity for people to work for them, right? Or him. The core thing is they went out and they did it. They started making it happen. You believe that they're the only ones, but they're not the only ones. You get troubled into, I have to go to this job and work this job. No, that's not what it's all about. It's going to be like that until you can create and allow yourself to expand. But once you start to expand and create, man, things start happening. And I don't want to restate things that you just shared, but I just wanted to emphasize the importance of you being able to one day be an employer. When I was a child, my sixth grade teacher, Miss Jackson, she said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I said, "I want to be a preacher." and I want to a preacher. I want to be a teacher, and I want to be on radio because some of my family members used to listen to radio all the time. And I love radio, and I said I want to be on radio, and she was asking me, why, and I don't know. It just seemed like radio made people happy. That's all I could relate to. So in my life, I've been a preacher. In my life, I've been a teacher of the year. In my life, I've been on radio. This podcast is a type of radio experience for me, right? And I realize that time is short. So I've started to talk to my family and started to talk to them more about different moments that I want to fulfill, and I want to fulfill for them also, so I can leave a legacy. And that legacy is like, yeah, he did this, he did that. He went through this time in his life where everything was shut down and was broken, and he had to rebuild his life. But what they'll see out of that is what had to happen in order to get out of that funk. It hasn't always been success. It hasn't always been at the top of the pinnacle. Some of us been busted up stuff, but I had to get out of it. I had to get to that place where I look at somebody like the late Kobe Bryant and the Mamba mentality that he created that now everybody quotes. Everything wasn't always super positive in his experience. He's got something that was in his backdrop that people still wanted to talk about, the negative experience that happened in his life or experiences that happened in his life. But at the end of the day, look at the impact that he's made in so many other people's lives by teaching them about courage and being adventurous and being fearless enough that you can be confident in the fact that, yes, I took thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of shots. But then I realized that's one thing. Now I got to take it another step further. And now I'm going to take thousands and thousands and thousands of shots with somebody smacking me with a big bag, busting my arms up, beating on my body while I'm doing that. I've done thousands and thousands and thousands of shots with the blindfold on so I can make them in my sleep. But now I'm teaching and I'm sharing with mankind for when the routine is broken, things don't go exactly the way you want them to go and you think they ought to go, by you creating these different types of scenarios. When something comes up in your life and it doesn't go the way you plan, you just do like the cleaner does. And what the cleaner does, it doesn't matter if something breaks down. It doesn't matter if it doesn't go the way the cleaner wants it to go. What they've learned to do is simply to adapt. And so when you meet somebody that's got that kind of tenacity going on in their lives, you've met an opponent that is hard to beat because they're convinced of the fact they can handle anything. They've trained in their minds a way of approaching and handling anything. They can adapt. And because something goes out of alignment doesn't mean it's broken. It's there to strengthen you and test you, so that you can come out of the spot what's called Trina, and you stop trying to be this and you stop trying to be that. You realize you are, and you are supposed to face some struggles. You are supposed to face some challenges. But if you stop trying to and start doing, you can do like Kim Kardashian. Some people say whatever they want to say, but for a while she lived in the shadows of Paris Hilton. That was her cut buddies. That, she was just like this other little small person that was trying to be like Paris Hilton. But then when she broke her mold and she realized, I don't want to keep doing the same old routine quite the same way, she broke out of the carbon copy game and she accepted the nuances of her worth and of her value. Now she's worth $1 billion and change, maybe, or multi high millions, right up to the billions. Each one of the Kardashians learned from that model, and they were able to create this unique change from the carbon copy. And their moments are creating money and wealth and an expression of who they are. They're moving in their omniscience. They're moving in their omniscience. They're moving in their omnidirection. Wherever they go, whatever they think, they've practiced it so much that they know they can make it. They practice it so much that it doesn't matter what comes their way. They already can handle it. They've practiced no fear of failure. They practiced, we can embrace this moment. The TD Jakes of the world, they've practiced what happens when the moment shifts. It doesn't stop me. It doesn't disqualify me. It doesn't tell me I'm not great. It's a moment I have to just deal with it and confront. You understand? This is what we are faced with. And so if you're going to be great, and you are, if you're going to pursue overcoming small things, and you will, one of the things you'll train yourself to do is to put yourself through the rigors of difficulty from time to time. And when difficulty comes, embrace the difficulty. And when it becomes overwhelming, get somebody in that's a mentor that's been through an experience before. Just let somebody listen to you. Just talk about it, because you're likely to find your answer, because you brought the moment in. You accepted the moment. And when you accepted that moment, every treasury and every tool that you need for transformation, I'm telling you, for treasure, it's in the moment. And George, I'll conclude with this part here. You're so right. Not that I have apprehended, but I'm being apprehended of. Here's what I'm saying in that. I failed forward enough to know I can make it. And I felt forward enough to teach my sons, listen, don't follow the crowd. Become a crowd maker. Become that person that's going to cause crowds to form. Be that human highlight, not because you're showing off, but because you put your work in a certain kind of way. Because you put your work in a certain kind of way, it's giving you a yield. And that yield is changing not only your life, it's changing other people's lives. And now you're the human highlight that people are looking at. And they're saying to themselves, he can do it. I can do it. I like the way he's done it. I can do the same thing. And then they'll find their own truth. And they'll be transformed in their own moments. George.
Yeah, I love that. You know, it's kind of like the reason why Ferrari doesn't play commercials on TV. It's because the people with Ferraris don't watch TV. And, you know, you mentioned not following the crowd. And, well, you know, crowds don't, the masses rarely ever achieve greatness in any civilization, you know. And if you want to tap into that savage will, you want to tap into that untapped, untamed potential, you want to tap into the greatness of, you know, your design and what you've been put on this earth to do, that can't be something that holds you back. You know, you have to latch on to the people that are doing it, and it'll be a few. Your crowd will look a lot smaller, you know, and then you'll be more potent in what you're trying to do. When you have all these people in your, with like such access to you, your vision can kind of get blurry. You know, you can feel like you have to devote your energy in several different directions. But when you're not really worried about fitting in and looking cool, like, you know, or you're not really worried about public perception is really what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of put your nose down, have some tunnel vision, have the people in your life that are really already where you want to be or a little bit further in front of you. And then that's your group, that's your crew, you know. And then that will allow you to step out of that scope of what other people think. And you see someone that's already successful doing it and just focus on what they're teaching you and what they're doing and what they're, you know, because the people with the results that you want in life are not the masses. They're not the crowd. They're not, you know, there's only so many beachfront properties, right? And most people don't live in them. Like most people live in the city or, you know, inland. All right. It's only for a select few. And that's just kind of about life. Like the results that are worth having are only for a select few that are willing to do that, because only a select few are. You know, so it's just, I don't know. It fires me up. It makes me, you know, it reorients how you view things and what's important. And time really does matter. And, you know, you want to focus that time and energy on the things that really do matter and not just kind of give it away like, you know, the free samples at the supermarket.
Yeah, you gotta I like that. You have to prioritize you so you can crystallize in you. And I have and always encourage people, get 5 mentors. And those 5 mentors should be people that you respect and they're on a great level, but they're doing something that you want to do. The late great Al Courtney, Shervin Josephs, and 3 other mighty men. One was my pastor that passed away. Actually, 2 of them were my pastors that passed away. And 1 billionaire that I cannot share his name openly. These guys are my mentors. And I need them because what they do and how they do it is otherworldly to me. And they're not worried about anything. Our time is up, right? Make the most of your moment, right? It's treasures in your moment. Time is of the essence. Time is money. Respect your time, respect my time, and we respect yours. We're closing, baby. George, bring us out.
I love it, guys. Thanks for tuning into the podcast today. We'll definitely be back next week at 11:11 on the East Coast. If you didn't notice, we have some swag on today, and we're working on it. We're coming up with some designs. We'll definitely have some shirts and probably look at doing some hats as well. So stay tuned. Value your time. Hope you guys have a great rest of the weekend and sit down and just really appreciate the time you've been given and go out and make the most of it.
Good stuff, George. Thank you, Jeannie.
Alrighty, we're out.